You're listening to the Creator Mindset Podcast, episode number 5.
Welcome to the Creator Mindset Podcast, where artists, performers, and entrepreneurs share knowledge that will kick off your career and take you to the next level. Turn your vision into reality with your host, Ariane Lianza Hines.
In this episode, I interview Nayanna Holly, a singer from Los Angeles. She shares with us how she became a successful working backing vocalist, her take on networking, vocal health, and the ethics that come with being a working artist. If you want to build a solid foundation to your voice and brand, go to www.arianelianzahines.com/5 to get access to the 7 keys in a video series that I created just for you. And now let's dig in with Nayanna Holly and the industry secrets of a backing vocalist. I hope you enjoy it and get a lot of valuable content out of it. I have the pleasure to be interviewing Nayanna Holly today. And
hello!
Nayanna is from Los Angeles-based singer-songwriter and a vocal performance coach. She has served as backing singer on American Idol, The Voice. Major tours have included Selena Gomez, Sheryl Crow, Robin Thicke, Alan Stone, Johnny Hallyday, and Robbie Williams. Her YouTube channel, The Practice Room, provides insider tips on singing, auditioning, music business, health, and wellness for the working musicians. Nayanna earned a bachelor's degree in jazz studies from Western Michigan University. So thank you so much, Nayanna, for being with me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
I know you're very busy since you're on tour right now.
Right, I am, yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about the tour and who are you on tour with?
Absolutely. I'm on tour right now with Robbie Williams, and this is actually my 3rd tour with Robbie. So we are currently touring his Heavy Entertainment Show album, and it's a big tour, arenas and stadiums. We've been on the road for about 3 months now, and we've got a couple of months left. So I'm talking to you today from Norway. And we've got a day off today and a show tomorrow. So I'm really excited, to be talking about exactly what I'm doing at the moment, which is, singing and background singing and all of that. So
yeah. So how did you become a backing vocalist?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I'm sure the answer for many of my colleagues is very different. There isn't necessarily one formula to get to this career, but basically, in short, to tell you my story, I was lucky enough to come from a family of musicians. My father was a background singer as well. He sung background for Michael Jackson for Michael's entire career. He also sung background with James Taylor, with Rod Stewart. But he spent most of his career with Michael. So my introduction to music was seeing him on stage with Michael Jackson, which is probably arguably one of the biggest superstars in the world. So I was really lucky in that regard, but it wasn't immediate that I knew that I wanted to be a singer. It actually took me a really long time. I think I came upon deciding to become a singer quite late, probably in my mid to late teenage years. Started showing an interest in music and listening to the records that my parents had in the house. So I went to a art school in high school. So that's where I really started to begin my training in music. Then after that, decided to go to a conservatory for a little while, which was the Musicians Institute in Hollywood, studied some more there, and then took my studies on to college. And I know a lot of singers that don't even get formal training and are still able to have, a really long and profitable career. But I decided to go the academic route, which was just what felt right to me. Mm-hmm. And then after I came home from college, because my school was in Michigan, and as you said in your intro, I am actually from LA, so I came back home. And I tell a lot of singers who are interested in starting either background singing or just being in the entertainment industry that it is important and valuable to be in a city where that career is, blossoming. Mm-hmm. And LA is definitely one of those. LA, New York, New Orleans, we think of these cities in the States as big musical hubs. And it took me about a year, maybe even 2 years of networking and meeting musicians and letting people know that I was in town and making people aware of who I was and what I did before I started working. So in short, that's how it began. Mm-hmm. And that was about 10 to 15 years ago now. So
yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about networking? What actions did you take?
Sure, absolutely. Because I had my dad in the business, a lot of things that I learned came from him. Once he realized that I was interested, he would take me on sessions with him before I could sing. And then once I started showing that I had a voice and that I was serious, he would hire me for a couple of things that he felt like I might be ready for. Not too much, because he didn't want, my career to begin as Dorian's daughter, but as, my own that I earned. So I did have a little bit of a foot in the door through him. And basically what I did, and this is pre-social media, so it was a lot harder years ago, but I would make literally phone calls to people that I knew were in LA, what we call contractors. So a contractor is a person who's going to hire, a choir for an episode of The Voice, or we need 6 singers to sing on the soundtrack of this movie, or I need, 3 people to go on tour with this person. There's usually one go-to person, whether it's a musical director or a contractor, that hires those people. So as I started getting to know who those people were in LA, which from going to concerts, going to my friends' concerts, just talking to people, you start to realize who those figures are. I started making phone calls to them and letting them know, either if we had met before, it's been a long time, how are you? I just want you to know that I'm in town, and if anything comes up that you think I'd be suitable for, blah, 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 blah. Or I might send an email, and I would put this in my calendar. So I would do this like 3 times a year. And sometimes I would try to do it where it fell on a holiday, so it made sense that I'd be reaching out to that person, happy holidays, just want to let you know, whatever. Just because it's quite awkward to just start up a conversation on your own when you're trying to get something from someone. So sometimes I try to, lean on reasons to be reaching out to them. Or another good one is if I always watch movies until the end of the credits and see if I recognize any of the names that have to do with music. So let's say I went to go see, the animated film Sing, and I recognize the vocal contractor. I might send him an email and say, hey, I think it might have been my friend Jasper, I think, that contracted that, but don't quote me because I could be wrong. But I would email that person and say, hey, I saw Sing and the choir sounded amazing. You did a great job. Just want to let you know I'm in LA and I'm looking for work. Can I send you my demo reel or something like that? So that's one way to network. Another way is just going out to hear music where you are, and staying and making sure that you're speaking to people. What I like to tell my students is, you meet someone and don't necessarily have in your mind that you want to get something from this person. We know that you do. That is essentially what networking is. But if you're coming from that place, a lot of times you forget to really either listen to what the other person is saying. You're very focused on your own aim. So what I like to think of is what do I have that I can offer them rather than what they can do for me. And so it just helps me stay relaxed. It helps me stay genuine when I'm speaking to someone that I don't know. But what I tell my students is, speak when you meet new people. Obviously, you have a conversation, you get their number, you get their social media, and then a couple weeks later, you reconnect with that person online. And then obviously the goal at the end is to reconnect with them a third time again in person. And hopefully by that time you've let them know, who you are, the talents that you have to offer, and that you're available and ready to start working. And I find that really works for me. And then once people know who you are, then it's your responsibility to continue to remind them that you exist, because the world is very big. There's a lot of us that want to sing and make money. So you got to use all the tools that you have to remind people that you're here, whether it's social media, Instagram, phone calls, whatever it is, whatever that means to you. You got to constantly have people thinking of you so that when they need singers for a job, you're one of the first people that comes to mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's like a balance, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Of letting them know you're here, but not even always begging, because
exactly.
then they're gonna like scratch you off their list.
Absolutely. I mean, it even comes down for me to like, you know, when I'm on Instagram and I'm looking through a person's feed, and you know how you can see the names of people that have either liked a picture or left a comment. Sometimes I forget about people that I even know. And when I see their name constantly, it's like, oh yeah, let me call this person. Let me call that person. And they haven't contacted me directly. That was a complete indirect thing. Just me seeing their name there. So, you know, you can be creative with it and try not to be annoying to where people don't want to call you, but making your presence known, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's about being human and not being a seeker all the time. Like, you know,
Absolutely.
you're seeking and you're searching and you're begging. That's obnoxious in any industry, actually.
Absolutely. So, I mean, we all need work and we all need help, and our community only functions because we help each other. But finding unique and creative ways to find, like you said, that balance is really important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what was your first job?
My first job, let's see, the first one that I can remember was my tour with Queen Latifah. Queen Latifah, for those of your, you know, aren't familiar, she's an actor, but she's also a singer. She's also a rapper. She's also a beauty and makeup mogul with, I think it's Maybelline. She does so many things. And I knew this guy, John Beasley, who's a piano player, who was about to be the music director of a tour that she was doing. She was singing jazz music for a little while. Mm-hmm. And so he was the MD. I can't remember I didn't know he was going to be the MD before he called me, but he knew, because I was studying jazz and was very familiar with like the jazz musicians in LA. He knew of me. He knew I was young, and he knew that I was in LA. So he actually called. I didn't have to audition, which this happens a lot. Sometimes just, you know, recommendations from other people or what people remember from the last time they worked with you can serve as a good enough audition. Yeah. Not for all jobs, but for a lot. I very rarely have to audition. And he basically picked up the phone and called and said, you know, I heard you're back from college. Are you interested in doing this tour? And he told me the details. I think he kind of knew, because I was young and talented, that I would be willing to do this job for very little money, which is fair enough. You know, that's just how the game works sometimes, but I was absolutely ready and grateful. And I did that tour with a few very, very heavy hitters in the background singing world. Romeo Johnson, who's worked with Puff Daddy a lot on his various shows on Making the Band. He's a vocal coach. And Charlotte Gibson, who is an amazing singer and has worked with some incredible, worked as a background singer for just the heaviest, you know, Whitney, and the list goes on. So that was a great experience for me in terms of just learning the industry. I was very young and green, as we say. And it was a short tour, so it was kind of perfect for me. I learned a lot.
That was like a perfect balance in between, okay, I'm going to get the best experience, not too long.
Yeah.
You didn't make so much money. It was okay for that.
That's all right. Yeah. Yeah, it was great.
The guy knew. He knew.
Yeah. Right. And I mean, I could be wrong, but, you know, looking back 10, 12 years, that's what I suspect. And that's probably what I would do if I was in his situation, is kind of find a balance between, you know, seasoned, mature singers, you know, that we can give them some more, and then maybe bring in some young heads, as we call it.
Yeah. Give a chance to someone who was not known yet.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And I'll do that when I'm able as well, because it's all about giving back.
Yes. That's really great. So what do you think, what skills and personality you think someone needs to be a background singer?
Well, if you're just talking about musical skills, obviously you got to be able to sing. You got to have a great voice. So, you know, I constantly talk to my students about just practicing and working on your own skills. So whether that's working on harmony, being able to hold your own, in a situation where you're singing harmony you can't argue with that. That's absolutely 100% essential. Being able to sing in tune. One of I think the biggest skills for me is to have a good ear. And it's a balance between having a good ear and being able to sight read. So in LA, a lot of jobs you don't have to be able to read, but you'll get given, let's say you're preparing for a tour, you'll get given the record and they tell you what part you're going to sing, and you just have to be able to pick it out by listening to it yourself. You're not necessarily going to get sheet music. You're probably not going to get sheet music, in fact. So being able to hear and to identify, oh, that's the alto line or that's the tenor line. Sopranos can be, easier because it might be louder and you can kind of tell what's high, but really being able to identify those parts that are, interconnected is really, really useful. But then also being able to sight read if you want to work in the film industry. That's an area where it's very expensive to make films and time costs money. So the less time you can spend on preparing the music and recording the singers, the better. So they'll hire singers that can read. So working on both of those skills is really important. And then being able to blend. If you're used to being a solo singer and decide to take jobs as a background singer, you can no longer sing the same way you sung as a solo singer, unless that's specifically what the artist is asking for. So for me, the most useful thing I learned in my vocal training was how to healthfully access my head voice, because I find that that's the place where it's easiest for me to sing. If I need to belt, not belt, but if I need to sing loud and strong, but I don't want to hurt myself and I need to do it night after night, I'll use either my head or my mix. And then I also need to use my head if I'm blending with a group of 3 people and we're all right up on a mic. So, developing those skills as well, it's really, really important. And then finally being able to blend or to match sound. Sometimes you will be asked to sing the exact same thing that the artist is singing. We call that ghosting. Let's say, the person you're working for is not well or sick or can't hit a certain note because of whatever reason. Sometimes they'll hire people that can imitate their sound. And so learning how to do that, how to imitate, how to match sounds is also, it's not only fun to do, but you can really use it. I actually got a call from a friend of mine who works on Jimmy Fallon. I think it was Jimmy Fallon, one of these late night shows, and they were doing a skit where they wanted to imitate Britney Spears. And one of the guys knew that I, kind of just playing around would imitate her voice or imitate, Ashley Simpson's voice. So they called me and they were like, what are you doing in the next hour? I wasn't doing anything. And I came down and did a voiceover in a similar sound as Britney Spears. And it was like the most fun thing. And I got paid and it was great. It was so fun. So that's also another useful skill. So there's lots of different ways to use your voice in this industry. And then to get to the second half of your question, personality skills, just being a good person, like we said earlier, not thinking about what you can get from other people, but what you have to offer, always being early, being considerate, saying thank you, just having basic manners that our mamas and papas teach us. It's very easy to forget that because you can be around celebrity, you can be around a certain kind of lifestyle. And I think for some people, their frame of mind changes and they think that they can now behave differently or more like a diva or more demanding or whatever. And I never want to lose sight of just having basic manners and not causing drama or not causing problems when you're at work, because that also is another form of networking. You never know who you're around and you never know what they might say about you to someone else when it's their turn to recommend you for a job. So I always want to make sure that the things people have to say about me are positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that covers it. Totally. I mean, I think people want to be around people who are polite, on time, and enjoying themselves,
Absolutely.
as well as serving. Like
Yeah.
you were saying, really what you have to offer, and
Yeah.
give it at your best.
Definitely.
Best of your
Definitely.
ability.
Yeah.
And you covered the whole technicity of the voice. That's it's really interesting. Like what you said, like the imitation and the blend and all this. Yeah, it's very, very interesting. So another question I have: would you never want to be a solo artist?
Yes and no. I certainly wouldn't want to. I don't want fame. Let's say that. It's important to me to stay connected to my own personal creativity. But what else can come along with that if you're seeking, record contract and just a big, famous career? I don't want that, because I love, just home life, family, being able to go wherever I want, do whatever I want, whenever I want. And there's a really high cost that comes along with seeking fame that I see in every single artist that I work for, and that's tough. It's very difficult to give those things up that we, as kind of common people, take for granted. So, that being said, I have put out my own record just for myself, just because I wanted to get together and make music with my friends and talk about things that were happening in my life. So I believe it was 2010. I released my own album. I did a crowdfunding, fundraiser with, who did I do it with? I can't even remember now, but raised about $5,000, with friends and family and people that love me. And it was great. I'm really, I don't listen to it often, but when I come back to it, I'm so happy that I created something that will last forever. You just cannot replace that as an artist. So I encourage, especially my friends that are on the road all the time, when you come home, do a show and film it, and it's hard for us that like to be support and like to be in the background, even just to do that. So it isn't easy, and the preparation part is not fun. Obviously, only the art making part is fun. But we have to obviously activate other parts of our brain in order to get there. But once you get there, it's just priceless, having something that you made that will last forever. So I have no regrets, and hopefully it can stir up the courage to do another project like that sometime soon.
You have been on The Voice and on American Idol, and with all those artists that are so famous. So I'm going to give you two questions now.
Sure.
So the first one is, you touched it a little bit. It was, you have to give up a lot when you are seeking fame. And I know a lot of the attendees, that's what they want. They want fame.
Yeah.
Can you tell them a little bit more about that?
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I can only speak from secondhand experience. Obviously, I can only speak on what I see, what I observe in these artists. But your life, your decisions, your time is not your own when you step into a life of fame and the lights and the glitter and the glitz and the glam. I mean, there are great things about it. I am sure there's no doubt in my mind that when Robbie Williams stands in front of 90,000 people singing the words to his songs, and he doesn't have to do anything but just hold up a mic, I'm sure that feels incredible. I can't even imagine how great that feels. But to not be able to go, to a park with your kids and not get hassled, that's also got to really suck when you're trying to incorporate, something of a normal life. At least for American Idol, I sing as one of the background singers. There's a live band that supports them. So the schedule, even just the schedule for the band, is extremely rigorous, particularly when you're getting into like the live shows and it's filming, day after day after day. So if the schedule is rigorous for us, it's multiplied by even that much more with the artists that are on the show. They've got to learn songs in a day, which is why, when you watch the show and you see someone fumbling on words, sometimes it's nerves, but sometimes it's because you picked out a song a week ago that you wanted to sing, and then some producer decided they didn't like it and they wanted you to do something else, because they get to choose for you sometimes. And that sucks. You don't get to decide what your career looks like creatively. A lot of times it's a team that is hired, and they tell you how you're going to look, how you're going to sound, what you're going to say, all these things. So, and that's just a small part of it. We could talk about this for hours. But I guess what I would say to those that are seeking fame, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. To each his own. We all have a different path in life. And some of us, like Michael Jackson, our world would not be the same if we never had him. And I'm glad that he took the path that he did. Mm-hmm. And I know that he struggled a lot as well. But he had to give us that gift, right? So I'm not here to stand in the way of that for anyone, but I would definitely encourage you to think about the cost and really know consciously that you're deciding to choose that path over something else. Whereas for me, what I like to do is to have a little bit of both in my own way. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm singing in a club in front of 100 people that know me and love me and can sing the lyrics to my songs, and that's enough for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the second part of my question was, you were a background singer for The Voice and American Idol. Mm-hmm. How was that experience? Do you have to learn things very quickly?
Yes.
How is it?
Yes. Well, with American Idol, my role was a little different than with The Voice. I've only come in as a very infrequent member of The Voice. Let's say they have a choir or a 6-piece ensemble. I'm not actually a part of the band. They have a core band and 3 singers that are there all the time. So that would be usually a call a day or 2 days before. Are you available? And it would be a work day from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. A lot of it is waiting around. A lot of TV is just waiting. But they would send the songs the night before. They would also send sheet music for The Voice. You learn it. I show up to work 30 minutes early because you never know what parking's going to be like, traffic. And then, you usually pre-record, which is you record just vocally what will be aired, so that they can, if they need to mix it or edit it or whatever they need to do, they have that safety. And then when you tape the live, you also sing live as well. And then you go home, and that's it. But with Idol, when I was actually a part of the band, it's so much work. It's definitely a day job. It's creative, but it is a clock in and clock out day job. So, depending on where you are in the season, we might get 30 songs Monday morning. And by Monday afternoon, you got to be at least comfortable enough to sing through the songs. So you're learning songs, you're rehearsing, you're doing camera blockings. Ryan Seacrest is the consummate professional. He doesn't miss a day of work, and he blocks and rehearses every single thing that he presents on that show. Like I was talking earlier about having a fast ear, usually what will happen is the 4 of us singers will get a list of songs and recordings of the songs, and then an edit, because, the shows can only allow so much of the song to actually happen. And then we decide amongst ourselves who's going to sing what. Sometimes we'll cut out parts. Pop songs have so many parts going on. So we'll decide amongst ourselves what seems most necessary and what will translate live. Learn it, record it on our as voice memos on our phone, label them, so that then when we go actually on stage to rehearse or to perform, maybe we might have to give a little listen to refresh our memory of what we've done, and then be ready to go. It's a fun show, but you got to have great people skills, because you're together a lot, you're stressed out a lot, and you've got to have a great ear. So it's definitely one of the more challenging and rewarding shows that I've ever gotten a chance to do. And to top it off, I've become friends with some of the contestants, which is so nice. They're all, so lovely. And it's nice to, even after that job finishes, to be able to still kind of connect with people that I got to work with or got to sing for. So,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Beautiful. So what would you advise for anybody that wants to be a backing vocalist? So I know you said a few things about it, so but let's say like 3 or 4 really important things to remember.
Appearance matters in this industry. That sucks, but it's entertainment. That's just what it is. So I say that to say, as long as you are maintaining your vocal health, and if you can, let's just say, for example, sight read, and how earlier you and I were talking about working on film, you're not necessarily going to be seen. And no matter how old you are or what you look like, you can always work as long as your voice works, right? So if there's anything that I would definitely tell a singer who wants to be in this industry to do, it would be to start picking up or continue practicing an instrument that you've learned and learn how to sight read, because the aim is to have longevity. And I think that if you can read, you can manage having a longer career than you're just going to be on TV all the time, because you're not going to always get those calls. So figuring out other ways in order to work. Another one is, and this kind of ties into the last thing, is just vocal health. Because we have this gift that's already kind of inside of us naturally. And I know people will argue me about that, but I really believe that the voice, it's not something that we have to literally learn how to do. We have to learn how to grow it, how to strengthen it, all of those things. But babies can sing, right? They can't play guitar. So making sure that you're always healthy so that you can work is crucial. The amount of singers that I talk to that just don't warm up, I don't understand. You wouldn't try to go run a marathon if you hadn't been working on it. You definitely wouldn't try to run a marathon if you hadn't stretched right before. I warm up every day. I don't want to lose my range. I don't want to lose any power. I want to, as long as my body is allowing me to, at this age, I want to have like optimum access to what my voice can do. So you got to be healthy. You got to be ahead of the game when you're thinking about the seasons changing and the flu and all of that. Like you cannot afford to get sick. And the worst thing in the world is to have to turn down a call because you're sick. I mean, it's just like, oh no, I've actually done sessions when I had the flu. I will be there. Just, spray the microphone down when I leave. We'll figure it out. So yeah, I'd say sight reading, instrument, vocal health. And then the last one I would say, and this is less of a vocal thing and just more of a, personality thing, is to practice confidence as much as possible. It's so important to not only know that you are working on the skills that you have, but just feeling confident in what you can do. It speaks volumes. And one of the things that I think singers in general tend to shy away from are their fears. The more you face your fears, whatever they may be, the more confident you'll be. A quote that I love and I constantly try to remind myself is, inaction breeds fear and action breeds confidence. So you have to do those things that make you scared. So if it's making a record, or if it's putting together a show, or if it's going to talk to someone that you don't know because you're networking, it kind of ties all of these things together to benefit you in your career and in the longevity of your career.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know some of these things are a little bit nebulous, but be prepared for the job before the job comes. And it's like, okay, well, what does that mean? I say that because there are so many jobs that I got. I know we talked about a little bit about auditions earlier. There's so many jobs that I got just based off of a recommendation with absolutely no audition. Or there's been jobs where I was singing, I was working, and I didn't know in the moment that was the audition. I didn't know who was watching. I did one show with Sheryl Crow. And when I literally walked off stage, she came up to me and said, "I'm going on tour. Do you want to come?" That was my audition. So basically what I mean is, as long as you're constantly practicing, and working on your craft. And what I like to say is, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. When the call comes, you can confidently say yes, and you can, be the perfect person for the job. But that requires a lot of discipline from us. I think being disciplined is a difficult thing, particularly for singers, because we don't learn the skills of practice the way instrumentalists do. So we've got to push ourselves. We've got to push ourselves to set aside time every day to work on our craft, whether it's 10 minutes, whether it's an hour, to set aside time, quarterly or weekly or whatever, to network. Whatever it is in your life, what it is. The areas where you need to work more. I mean, even preparing for this interview with you, there were some things that I needed to do that I had been putting off. And it was like, oh, now I'm really glad that I had to be in this situation, because it forced me to work harder in areas that, I tend to shy away from. So we've got to be ready before the opportunity comes to our door. So once the opportunity is there, we're the perfect person for the job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm so curious. You mentioned your dad and the fact that he was the backing vocalist for Michael Jackson, and I'm a huge fan, of course.
Me too.
So was Michael Jackson a big influence? Did you go on tour with your dad?
I did. Yeah. He was an enormous influence before I even knew. I was 2 years old and my dad started working with him. It's funny, my dad tells his story. He almost didn't take the audition for the job because I was just born. And my mom was like, "Are you crazy? Take this audition and we'll figure it out." So he did, and he got the job, and Michael's camp was amazing. They allowed, my mom and myself to come out and be on tour for months at a time. I wound up being kind of the road baby, as you say, on those tours until I was like 9, maybe even later. So it got to the point where my schools were calling my parents and saying, Nayanna's missing too much school now. So I would like take homework on the road and then, come back to class. And at some point we kind of had to stop. But I say that to say I spent a lot of time on the road with them. I would watch Michael perform every night. I would sit in the sound booth, sometimes with, Janet, sometimes on Whitney Houston's lap. I mean, it's like, it doesn't even make sense that this was my childhood. And then sometimes I got to be on stage with him. There was a time where he was performing Heal the World, and a huge globe would come out of the center of the stage, and little kids would be holding hands in a circle around the globe. And sometimes I'd be one of those kids, and sometimes I got to stand right next to Michael and hold his hand. So it was just, it was totally charmed. I pinched myself all the time, even thinking that it was real. But to see the biggest superstar our world has ever known perform, not even once, but more than once, it has an impact on you that you probably I can't even really process. So it's obviously no wonder I ended up going into entertainment, with my father and with that kind of childhood, and seeing how I feel like music is one of the greatest arts that affects a lot of people. I think we reach the masses really more than any other creative art form, just because so many people can connect to music. So to be able to be a vessel that has a responsibility and the gift to be able to do that, it's like I'm tearing up just thinking about it. It's
I have chills.
Yeah, it's so wonderful to be able to be a singer. I don't even know what to say. Yeah,
it is. It's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about your own project on YouTube. What's the name of it?
The Practice Room.
The Practice Room.
Yeah, I'm at the point in my career where, and it's beautiful, I get a lot of calls from young singers, saying, "Can we meet for coffee? Can I pick your brain? Can you tell me, how did you do this? How did you do that?" And I was starting to get a lot of the same questions, and I figured, there are probably a lot of either young singers or even singers that I work with that just have a lot of questions. And I wanted to create a space, and YouTube seemed to make sense. I kind of toyed with doing Instagram stories for a while, but you just never know they only last for 24 hours, and B, everybody doesn't watch them. So I faced one of my fears, which was putting myself in front of a camera like a crazy person and starting this channel. So it's essentially a space for singers to learn about singing, about music, about the music industry, and about health and wellness as it regards to entertainers. So yeah, I'd love if your viewers, will check it out.
Yes, I'm going to put the link right there under, and please go check it out. I watched a few episodes of Nayanna's practice room, and I love them.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
I subscribe to your channel.
Yay! I'm glad.
Did you prepare something for the attendees to download?
Yeah, absolutely. For everyone that has watched this, thank you so much for lending me your ear, and I hope that you learned something. And I'm going to prepare a PDF to send you in exchange for you signing up on my mailing list. And it's going to be some top tips in some of the things that we talked about today, and some extras, tips on the areas of confidence, networking, health, just being an entrepreneur and running your own business, and obviously music and singing. So I'd love to share that with you guys, and I hope you like it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being with me today, Nayanna. Do you have anything to add? Do you want to say a last word?
No, I don't think so. I know you've got a lot of different kind of artists watching this summit. So I just say, wherever you are in your craft, give it your all. You will not regret an extra hour of practice. And, just stay true to the path that you feel like you're meant to be on.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
On December 9th, I am holding a mastermind live online with many amazing artists just like you. Starting out a little bit further on the way, you'll get to experience the power there is to surround yourself by people who are on the same path. It brings inspiration, courage, and insights into your next steps. And if you're curious on knowing what a mastermind is, you can sign up for free at www.arianleanzaheinz.com/5. There you'll also find the show notes of this episode. And if you're listening to this episode after December 9th, connect with me through my main website, and I will keep you updated on the next possibility to join a live mastermind. Did you like this episode? We do appreciate a lot when you subscribe, when you share, or when you give us a review on iTunes. I have an amazing team behind me doing the show notes, helping me set it all up, and we count on you to review it and to maybe give some love. Thank you. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to the Creator Mindset podcast at www.arianleanzaheinz.com.